Within a span of just over 2 centuries, a group of defiant colonies evolved into the mightiest nation on the planet. The United States of America, its economy, armed forces, culture, and global sway tower over the world stage. Yet how did a young nation, forged in rebellion, ascend to such extraordinary prominence? From its foundational ideals to its industrial strength, from worldwide conflicts to cultural outreach, this narrative traces the ascent of America to superpower status. Today, we'll examine the critical elements: geography, philosophy, economy, military, and international strategy that elevated the United States to the pinnacle. Accompany us as we decode the odyssey of a country that transformed the globe. Fade to a world map spotlighting the U.S. with animated lines illustrating global trade paths, military outposts, and cultural reach. Let's begin at the outset. The United States came into being in 1776 as 13 British colonies proclaimed their autonomy. But what set this emerging nation apart? To start, its geography. Animated map of North America in the 18th century. Zooming in on the 13 colonies, display fertile territories, waterways, and natural assets. America's landscape was a boon. Expansive rich plains, navigable streams, and 2 oceans offered natural protection and commerce corridors. Unlike Europe's congested, battle-scarred frontiers, the U.S. enjoyed room to expand and safety to pioneer. Next came its philosophy. The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were more than mere legal texts. They embodied groundbreaking concepts. Freedom, democracy, and personal rights ignited a nation of visionaries and achievers. Reenactments of the Constitutional Convention, quill-signing documents, and early American pioneers. This philosophy drew immigrants, millions in search of opportunity. By 1800, the U.S. population was expanding rapidly, driven by a conviction that anyone could thrive. Black and white photos of early immigrants at Ellis Island, thriving colonial settlements. Initial choices steered America's course. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 doubled the nation's expanse, purchased from France for a mere $15 million. Map animation, depicting the Louisiana Purchase extending U.S. territory. The U.S. also sidestepped Europe's endless wars, turning its focus inward. The Monroe Doctrine of 1823 declared the Western Hemisphere closed to European colonization, hinting at America's intent to rule its region. Portrait of James Monroe, map of the Americas with a striking line dividing it from Europe. Yet growth wasn't without strife. The U.S. expanded through clashes like the Mexican-American War, acquiring California and Texas. Manifest destiny, the notion that America was fated to stretch across the continent, propelled this expansion. Battle reenactments, maps illustrating territorial gains, paintings of settlers trekking west. By the mid-19th century, America was no longer a minor contender. It possessed land, population, and a dream. But to emerge as a global power, it required something additional: economic strength. Zoom out from a map of 1850s America to a montage of factories and railroads. The 19th century witnessed America shift from an agricultural society to an industrial giant. The Industrial Revolution struck the U.S. at an ideal moment. Footage of early factories, steam engines, and spinning mills. Plentiful resources, coal, iron, timber, and later oil, drove this progress. The Transcontinental Railroad, finished in 1869, linked the country, transforming it into a vast unified market. Animation of railroads spreading across the U.S., workers laying tracks, trains chugging through plains. Capitalism served as the driving force. Visionaries like John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, and J.P. Morgan constructed empires in oil, steel, and finance. Their breakthroughs, and at times cutthroat methods, generated wealth on an extraordinary scale. Photos of Rockefeller and Carnegie, steel mills, oil rigs, and early skyscrapers. By 1900, the U.S. surpassed Britain, the world's top industrial force. Its GDP soared, and cities like New York and Chicago emerged as global centers. Graphs displaying U.S. GDP growth, busy city streets, early Wall Street. Immigration powered this engine. Between 1880 and 1920, over 20 million people arrived, supplying labor for factories and a variety of perspectives. Crowded ships at Ellis Island, workers in factories, ethnic neighborhoods. Yet economic dominance alone wasn't sufficient. America needed to project its strength worldwide. The Spanish-American War of 1898 marked its entrance as a global contender, securing territories like Puerto Rico and the Philippines. Battle footage, newspaper headlines about the war, maps showing new U.S. territories. The early 20th century saw America showcasing its economic prowess. The Panama Canal, completed in 1914, granted the U.S. control over a crucial trade passage. Construction of the Panama Canal, ships navigating through. By World War I, America had become a creditor nation, lending billions to Europe. Its economic supremacy was evident, but a greater challenge loomed. Fade to black and white footage of World War I trenches, then shift to American troops boarding ships. World War I proved a pivotal moment. Though the U.S. joined late in 1917, its rested troops and resources tilted the balance for the Allies. American soldiers in trenches, Wilson's 14-point speech, Treaty of Versailles signing. After the conflict, President Woodrow Wilson advocated for a League of Nations, but America withdrew into isolationism. It wasn't prepared to lead, yet. Newspaper headlines about the U.S. rejecting the League, 1920s prosperity. The Great Depression struck severely in the 1930s, but President Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal restored confidence in infrastructure. Breadlines, New Deal projects like dams and highways, FDR speeches. World War II was the defining test. Following Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, America mobilized like never before. Pearl Harbor footage, Rosie the Riveter posters, factories producing tanks and planes. The U.S. emerged as the arsenal of democracy, manufacturing 40% of the world's weapons. Its industrial output outstripped that of its foes and allies combined. Graphs comparing U.S. production to Germany and Japan, D-Day landings, Pacific battles. The atomic bomb, crafted via the Manhattan Project, concluded the war and highlighted America's technological advantage. Hiroshima explosion, scientists at Los Alamos, Truman announcing victory. Post-World War II, America stood as the sole major power undamaged. Europe and Asia lay in ruins, yet the U.S. economy flourished. Ruined European cities versus thriving American suburbs, 1950s prosperity. The Cold War shaped the next era. U.S. confronted the Soviet Union, guiding the free world. The Marshall Plan reconstructed Europe, linking allies to America's economy. Marshall Plan aid deliveries, NATO formation, Berlin airlift. The military might expand. The U.S. established outposts globally from Germany to Japan. Its navy dominated the oceans, and its nuclear stockpile deterred adversaries. Maps of U.S. military bases, aircraft carriers, nuclear tests. The space race marked another victory. Landing on the moon in 1969 wasn't merely a scientific achievement, it symbolized American ingenuity. Apollo 11 launch, Neil Armstrong's moonwalk, cheering crowds. Military and economic strength were only part of the narrative. America's culture captured hearts and minds worldwide. Hollywood films, rock and roll, and blue jeans became universal emblems of liberty. Clips from classic Hollywood movies, Elvis Presley performances, Coca-Cola ads worldwide. The tech revolution solidified this. Silicon Valley delivered Apple, Microsoft, and the Internet, revolutionizing global communication. Early computers, Steve Jobs unveiling the iPhone, Google's campus. American universities drew the world's brightest talents, sparking innovation. The U.S. led in patents, Nobel Prizes, and scientific advancements. Harvard and MIT campuses, Nobel ceremony clips, medical and tech innovations. The dollar emerged as the world's reserve currency, granting America unrivaled financial sway. Institutions like the IMF and World Bank, based in the U.S., molded global economics. Wall Street, dollar bills, IMF meetings. Yet America's ascent had its imperfections. Vietnam, Iraq, and domestic disparities triggered criticism. Still, its capacity to self-correct, via civil rights movements and democratic changes, sustained its resilience. Civil Rights March, Vietnam War protests, women's suffrage. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 left America as the lone superpower. The unipolar moment saw the U.S. spearheading globalization, promoting democracy, and managing conflicts. Berlin Wall falling, U.S. peacekeeping missions, UN Security Council. Presently, America's power remains unmatched, yet under threat. China's emergence, climate change, and internal divisions challenge its endurance. Chinese cities, climate protests, polarized U.S. politics. Nevertheless, America's strengths persist. Its ingenuity, diversity, and flexibility. From AI to renewable energy, the U.S. continues to lead. Tesla factories, SpaceX launches, diverse American communities. Its military retains global supremacy, with a budget exceeding the next 10 countries combined. Its alliances, such as NATO, enhance its reach. U.S. aircraft carriers, NATO summits, joint military exercises. The question isn't whether America will stay powerful, but how it will wield that power. Will it guide with collaboration or confrontation? The world is observing. UN General Assembly, American flag, global city skylines. America's rise to global dominance was no fluke. Geography laid its base, ideology motivated it, industry energized it, and strategy upheld it. From a defiant experiment to a superpower, the United States reshaped the world. Its tale is one of ambition, creativity, and resilience, but also of obstacles requiring wisdom to navigate. As we gaze toward the future, America's path reminds us, power isn't solely about might. It's about foresight. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history.